It's the Valley's nerdiest weather video. It's Weather for Weather Geeks. On this Thursday evening, we're gearing up for a fun night of high school football Friday evening. A handful of games, of course, ongoing this evening, but the big debut of the season in a lot of locales will be Friday evening. We have Panerathon coming up on Sunday in downtown Youngstown. Of course, the largest county fair in the state of Ohio is the Canfield Fair, making its debut next week on Wednesday with the start of the fair. That'll run, of course, all the way through Labor Day. And we have a great camera out at the fairgrounds, and it captured kind of a cloudy scene, of course, out there today, but preparations well underway at the fairgrounds. We had some mist and some drizzle in a few spots this morning. Otherwise, clouds won the battle for most of the morning and midday, but right on schedule, the clouds did start to thin as we got into the afternoon today. It's a nice evening out there. The sky is cleared nicely. We're playing football under a mostly clear sky in several locales this evening. Now, there will be some clouds that try to return later on tonight, but I think they'll break for plenty of sunshine coming up on Friday. All right, it's Thursday, so we did get an update from the U.S. Drought Monitor today. We saw an expansion of the abnormally dry designation. I've gotten some questions on social media. Why are we not classified as being in a drought? It's been awfully dry of late. Well, yes, in the short term and even the medium term, going back a month to 6 weeks, it's been pretty dry in most of eastern Ohio and western Pennsylvania. But a lot of times to be in a drought officially, we look for long-term precipitation deficits. And in most of our area, we had, of course, a pretty wet spring and early summer from April into May, even early June. It was pretty waterlogged across our area. So yes, things are dry and, yards are brown, and we've seen variable amounts of rain over the last several weeks, but in general, the flavor for our region has been dry weather. Going back in the longer term, it has not been quite as dry over the last 90 days when you look at that 3-month chunk. But I do think that we'll see an emergence of drought designations across our region if we were to have a fairly dry September. The Climate Prediction Center did put out their initial September outlook finally today. Sometimes they release these as early as like the middle of the month, around the 16th, but this month it was the 21st when they finally released their September forecast. And the precipitation outlook, roughly equal odds of a wetter than average month and a drier than average month. So it could go either way. If it were to go on the dry side again, like I kind of suspect it will, we could be looking at, officially being in a drought across the region. This can have an impact on our emerging foliage season late in September and, of course, into October. Prolonged dry weather, not good for a vibrant display of the fall colors. Now, in terms of temperatures, coast to coast, a warmer than average September is favored, including, of course, across our area. And I do think there will be some warmth building in after a pretty comfortable start to the month. Right around the 4th, 5th, 6th, and beyond, I think it'll be a little warmer than the average, the lion's share of the days anyway, as we head into that second week of September. All right, for the final time, hopefully, we are checking in on the tropics and Hurricane Erin. This has been on the playing field for, a week and a half or something at this point. It made its closest approach to the Outer Banks of North Carolina this morning. It's moving away rather quickly now, northeast movement at 20 miles per hour. High tide occurred this evening in coastal sections of the Mid-Atlantic and down into parts of the Carolinas. And, Erin is moving fast enough now that by tomorrow morning it'll be long gone, and the concern for beach erosion and coastal flooding and rip currents, all that fun stuff will be winding down rather quickly. And as Erin, of course, encounters the colder waters of the northern Atlantic, it will lose its hurricane strength and be a tropical depression pretty soon. Now, the remnant low from this may impact parts of Europe eventually, but as far as any, it being a tropical entity, its days are certainly numbered on that. It should become a tropical depression by the start of the weekend. All right, so as I mentioned, this evening for our handful of high school games, the weather is nice. It'll be even nicer Friday evening, crystal clear skies, temperatures in the 80s in the afternoon, kickoff temperature probably around 75 to 77, and then cooling off into the 60s under that clear sky as the evening wears on. So Friday's a real winner, and, as we head into the weekend, a cold front starts to approach, but ahead of the front, it's going to warm up pretty significantly. I think we'll see middle 80s, and, in a place like East Liverpool and maybe Salineville and kind of our southern viewing area, there's going to be some unofficial thermometers that might try to read 87 or 88 Saturday afternoon. On average, we'll hit about 84 or 85, and then still pretty warm, at least seasonably warm on Sunday. In between Saturday and Sunday, around Saturday night, there could be a shower with this front, but it's kind of a hard time squeezing out much moisture at all. Maybe a shower, maybe a sprinkle Saturday night into Sunday morning. And, I think it's going to be warm on Sunday for Panerathon. We've had hotter ones, but it'll be warm. The race in downtown Youngstown gets underway around 10 a.m., both the 2-miler and the 10K, which is 6.2 miles, starting at around 10 a.m. or so. And, it's going to be in the upper 60s, lower 70s, maybe a little bit of a breeze. Temperatures will make their way into the 80s, lower 80s Sunday afternoon before the cold air the cooler air, I should say, really starts to make inroads by Sunday night, heading into the day on Monday. But if you've been paying attention to our forecast of late, we are expecting some cooler than average weather for at least the first half of next week. We're close enough to the start of the Canfield Fair now that we can start getting a little more specific about our expectations. The fair gets underway Wednesday, and for anyone heading to the fairgrounds or doing anything else in which you'll be outside, if you're an early morning riser, it may be jacket weather a couple of times next week. We have a low of 47 in our forecast for both Wednesday morning and Thursday morning of next week. Afternoon temperature will be very nice, getting into the 70s. At this point, looking at the modeling, not many rain chances, I think, during the fair. If we were to see some showers, maybe it's by Labor Day on Monday, the final day of the fair. But until then, likely to be dry. The warmest day of the bunch might be Sunday. We put some ranges on the last 3 days because, of course, we're talking about more than a week out. So there's always going to be some uncertainty. But at this point, I would say the warmest weather is probably going to be during the weekend proper and maybe particularly on Sunday. So, things are looking good. If you're heading to the Canfield Fair and you stop by the WFMJ tent, be sure if you see some weather people milling around or signing autographs in the tent, including myself, be sure and compliment us on the weather. We take a lot of heat, a lot of haters out there when the weather isn't so nice. So when we're sitting in the tent at the fair and people are enjoying the nice weather out there, you can thank us. Not really, but we like to hear the compliments anyway. So that'll do it for me on this Thursday evening edition of Weather for Weather Geeks. No Weather Geeks tomorrow on Friday, so I'll see you back here on Monday. Thanks for watching tonight and all week long. Have a great Friday and a great weekend, everyone.